Good evening, everyone. My name is Casey Newsom, and I will be discussing the Culture Iceberg. So, the Culture Iceberg is often used as an analogy when it comes to an iceberg and a culture. The term typically iceberg pretty much symbolizes the observable behaviors in the culture as well as things you can see, hear, and touch. This also pertains to how they dress, their language, the food, the music, architecture, signs of affection, etc. So this is a visualization of the cultural iceberg. So as I said, the tip of the iceberg, which is here, talks about the institutions, the arts, the religion, the way they dress, the food, rituals, customs, traditions, and then it goes down and it talks about beliefs, ideals, norms, concepts, roles, and then down here there are the values, the desires, the assumption, tastes, and attitudes. So my cultural background, from my knowledge, it's Native American, Bahamian, Southern European, and slight Oriental. I'll get into that once I get into the actual presentation. So, the Native American background. So, basically, the Native American background, that comes from both sides of the family. So my dad's side, I found out that there was Native American in my blood through my grandmother because my grandmother told me that her grandmother was Native American and she had really long, black, beautiful hair. And that was my grandmother's father's mom. Um, she had a picture of her, but I never got a chance to see the picture. And my grandmother passed last year, so I never really got a chance to even mention it to her again. Then my mom's side of the family, um, I was told that we have Cherokee Indian in our family, um, which it kind of made sense because there's a lot of features in my family, like a lot of my relatives have really long, nice hair, very thick, very coarse, very beautiful. Um, and they also talk about the cheekbones. Like I was told that I had really high cheekbones, and that was also an interesting feature of an Indian woman or a Native American woman. And then we go on to Southern European. So the Southern European background also comes from my mom's side of the family. I was told that my great 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 grandfather was Caucasian. His name was Thomas Wiggins, and now her my grandmother's maiden name is Wiggins. She had gotten married, and her last name changed, but her maiden name was always Wiggins. Um, they didn't really give me too much information on that. Um, but to my knowledge, I don't know if he was a slave owner. I don't really like to get in stuff like that, but all I know is he was Caucasian. But I would consider him part of the Southern European background because, you know what I'm saying, he probably wasn't fully Caucasian. He probably had different descents in him, like he could have been Italian, he could have been Irish, he could have been any different race, but all they could label him was Caucasian because he was considered white. And then going to my last and final, oh no, the Bahamian background. So the Bahamian background comes from my mom's side of the family. I was told from a relative that our side of the family is Cherokee, Indian, and Bahamian. It actually comes from my mom's my mother's dad has that descent on his side of the family. Um Now I know for sure we have the Cherokee Indian. Um the Bahamian part, it might be deeper in the roots because they never really spoke on the Bahamian part, but I was told this. And it was ironic to me because we did visit the Bahamas and we met a lot of different people and we laughed and gathered with them and I enjoyed the experience. Um, and then last but not least, the Oriental part. So I was found out that we do have on my dad's side there is some slight Oriental in our blood. I kind of found it interesting because I've been told that I have really, really slanted eyes. And they were like, you have really slanted eyes. You have Chinese eyes. And I thought it was funny because I'm like, ha ha ha, I'm not Chinese. But when I got older to understand, I understood that I wasn't one race either. My important values are basically culture, beliefs, and tradition. I feel like all three of these apply to everyone because, being a culture, it provides social and economic benefits. The beliefs are important because it depends on your behavior, and tradition gives you a sense of comfort and belonging. And my final thoughts are, you know, despite who you are, you're not just one race. You're many races in one. And that's why it's always important to trace back to your roots because you learn so much when you trace back to your roots. And then it allows you to open up to traveling and learning other cultures and, you know, being more open minded and more open to hands on learning when it comes to traditions or religious activities, anything when you're traveling. I really enjoyed this project because it really taught me a lot and it made me value cultures a lot more. So this concludes my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and have a good night.